Legal Defense Fund President and Director Counsel Janae Nelson joins me now, along with Evan Milligan, Executive Director of Alabama Forward and plaintiff in Merrill versus Milligan. Thank you both for being here. I had the honor of meeting you, Evan, when I was recently in Selma, and we were on a panel together. And I want you to give my audience the education you gave me about this case and why you are a plaintiff in it.
Sure, it's great to be with you again, Joy. Hi, Janae. Well, this case to me is about love for people who live in the Black Belt region of the United States, particularly the Black Belt of Alabama, where I was raised. But I happened to be born in the Black Belt area of East Texas, in Houston. It's where my father was from, and I mean, just by luck of the draw, my parents were people who taught me to love Black people through activism. And so that was a legacy that I grew up around, just like many other people in my part of the country. And as I became an adult and was choosing a career path, I've just been really, invested in justice-oriented work and work that improves the conditions of people living throughout Alabama's poorest communities. And so that led to us being involved in redistricting work in 2021. And as a result of that, we were able to get to know the legal defense fund attorneys and other attorneys who were on the ground working alongside community members and organizers. So when it was time to challenge the state's map, it was a really easy decision to work with the legal defense fund to do that.
Yeah, and today the question is it a winnable case? I mean, the arguments were made. I think last October, but we know that the supposed moderate among the conservative wing is John Roberts, who has a long history of seeming to despise the Voting Rights Act, going back to when he was a Reagan lawyer. So it's hard for me to construct which 5 members of the Supreme Court would actually rule in favor of Black Alabamians. Am I being too pessimistic?
Listen, I think your read of the court is correct. I will say that this case is absolutely winnable. In fact, it is a slam dunk case on the merits. You almost can't look at that map and look at the facts underlying it and see anything other than a racial gerrymander. We have a population of Alabama where Black people occupy roughly 27% of the population, and yet they are relegated to have an opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice in only 1 of 7 congressional districts. So, the map alone suggests what we were able to prove through a very extensive record, and that is that Black people are being packed into a single district in Alabama, and there is a direct effort to limit their political power. And this court should and can rule in our favor quite easily, and I hope that it will.
And Evan, what does this do to voters? Because every election year, people say, "Oh, look at Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. Look at the low voter turnout." But when Mississippi also only has 1 Black member of Congress, because there is this strategy in these southern states of finding all the Black people, drawing a big circle around them, and saying, "You get 1 Congress people, we get the rest." And that's what you're obviously fighting in this case. What does that do when you go out and say to people, "Hey, you should turn out and vote," when they're being told by their government, "Your vote doesn't count. We're packing you all in so that you really can't have a say"?
It forces us to find motivation when we're speaking to audiences in our communities that don't rely only in overnight change of quality of life. And so for many of the community members that we're engaging, they're saying, "Well, you want me to believe these things about government here in Alabama that I've never seen." And one thing that we constantly try to encourage people to do is, well, look, let's follow the money and think about rooms. There are certain rooms that you want to be in, and there's certain money being spent to keep you out of those rooms. So if we think of the ballot box as one of those rooms, why is there so much intense investment in these measures to challenge the basic fundamentals of exercising the right to vote? And so we really try to encourage those who feel a little jaded to think about some of the interests that may be profiting and benefiting from them sitting on the sidelines. And we think our case is a good illustration that it should be a slam dunk case under our laws, and the fact that this would even be a question, and let alone space for the state to make some of the arguments that it's making, is a great litmus test as far as where we are now and how many more people we need to join us in pushing and join
Yeah.
us in understanding, the where we are as far as the country right now.
When they try to take your vote away from you, just vote more. Because obviously there's a reason they don't
Right.
want you to do it. Janae, I do want to ask you this closing question. There is this question of contagion. There is another case that's coming up for the Supreme Court, and it's this state legislature case that would basically allow states to, set aside the will of the people and substitute them with their own electors, which is what Trump tried to do. Is there a concern in your view, in the view of the LDF, that if this case doesn't go the right way, there could be a contagion and the Supreme Court might feel free to rule the wrong way in that case?
Yeah, I think that we have to be very cautious about all of these cases that put our democracy in the hands of a court that we know might be politicized at this point. But I do think that there is enough constitutional doctrine to force the court to do the right thing, and the Moore versus Harper case should be
Yeah.
determined, and the Merrill versus Milligan case should be determined the right way by these members of the court.
Let's see if that happens. Evan Milligan and Janae Nelson, thank you both very much. Appreciate you. And that is tonight's Read Out. All in with Chris Hayes starts now.